The Professors is brought to you by Blackborder.com, an MTG site that delves heavily into every format of Magic, drafting with the pros, constructed testing, and deck design with the high-level mages, some of the best stories of the game, as well as Rise of the Eldrazi boxes, cases, intro packs, and more. So support the show and go check out Blackborder.com today. Hello everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of The Professors. This week we'll run down all 3 of the rounds I played in the New Jersey National Qualifier, including why these tournaments are now called National Qualifiers and not Regionals, why I only played 3 rounds last weekend, National Qualifier results around the world, whatever happened to the Eldrazi deck, and my review of Grand Prix Washington D.C. So let's draw. Sometimes tournaments don't go the way you plan, not because you picked the wrong deck, not because you made a severe playing mistake or a lot of them, not because the person across from you is an amazing player, not even because they chose to play an odd deck that happens to have a fantastic matchup versus your deck. Sometimes it's just because you get unlucky. In this particular National Qualifier, that was the case. All I can say is that there were at most 4 Vampire decks in this 80-person tournament, a deck which wasn't necessarily the right choice for the day and had no top 8 finishes, but was there just enough to screw me over. First round I played against Vampires, and lost. Perhaps my sideboard wasn't correctly tuned to do battle with this deck, and apparently sideboarding out Contaminated Grounds wasn't enough, but ultimately, just a bad matchup versus a more than competent player. Next round I versed, again, Vampires, played by a friend of mine who knew the deck I was playing and had in fact tuned his sideboard to handle the deck more efficiently. Third round in the O2 bracket, I found the third of 4th Vampire deck. Here I partially blame myself for making a fairly blatant playing mistake. It was game 2 and I'd lost game 1, with my life total at 6 and his at 5. My side of the field had 5 lands, including 1 Creeping Tar Pit, an untapped Vampire Nighthawk, and a Sidraxis Spectre, which had just taken his last card. He had 4 Swamps, a Kalastria Highborn, and a Vampire Hexmage on board. His turn comes up, at which time he draws into a second Kalastria Highborn. Looking dismayed, he simply plays the Highborn and thinks for a long time. He then attacks with the Vampire Hexmage. At this point, I'm a little confused as to why he hasn't played the Scoops yet, though I obviously shouldn't have been, and let his damage go through. He then thinks for another minute or so, tapping and untapping his remaining swamps tediously, and counting something on one hand. Then he finally says, I'll sacrifice the Vampire Hexmage to remove all the counters from your Sidraxis Spectre, and use the Kalastria Highborn's abilities to deal you 4 damage and gain 4 life. Disbelieving of the huge playing mistake I had just let fall through, I scoop up my cards and head back to the drawing board. So, for all players located in the United States, you might have been wondering why National Qualifiers have had their name errated to National Qualifiers and are no longer regionals. Well, the name change was a relatively small change, pushed to fruition by Scott Larrabee, the head of tournament organizing, to clarify the difference or lack of difference between tournaments in which you qualify for nationals in the United States and tournaments in which you qualify for nationals around the world. The second change, also pushed forward by Larrabee, was for a differing number of slots for nationals in different states, instead of the usual 4 slots all around. In the Northeast, residents of small states like New Jersey benefit, as it now means that we can go to the New Jersey National Qualifier for an attempt at 4 slots, or to Philadelphia or New York City for a chance at 8 slots, all within an hour-and-a-half drive of Central Jersey. However, this also meant that many people seeking a tournament with 8 slots had to choose between New York and Philly, which should have resulted in choosing the Philadelphia NQ, having just over 100 players, while the New York City NQ had nearly 500. This change is a little one-sided, though, as players in non-contiguous areas and or the middle of less populated states like Hawaii, Alaska, Wyoming, and North Dakota won't get their chance at a tournament offering more than 2 slots to nationals unless they're willing to drive 8 hours or go on a 3-hour plane trip. Overall, though, it does appear attendance for this tournament has gone down since last year, and it was lower than general attendance to states. So, what does that say about the qualifiers? Should they be more expensive to attend but offer airfare to the winners? Should they have bigger prize pools or special promos? Let us know your thoughts. So, this past Sunday, Brad Nelson, formerly known as the Magic Online player who drove 8 hours to an IRL PTQ and won out and then proceeded to place 9th at Pro Tour Honolulu, has now made it big as a member of the Channel Fireball team and is always on top of the metagame, online and in real life. His Blue-Eye Control deck also reminded us why Baneslayer Angel is so much money, and played all 4 in his main deck as opposed to their usual places in the sideboard. The deck in top 8 in general also reminded me of how good Grixis Good Stuff still is, and it would appear you guys agree with this statement. You guys sent and posted nearly 300 emails and comments back and forth discussing the list, and many played it at local FNMs or even national qualifiers worldwide with usually great results. As expected, the matchups against all the big 3-color decks of the format like Jund, Mythic, Conscription, and Super Friends, which composed 3/4 of the top 8, are all fine though, which is why I still recommend the deck. As for why I wasn't at Grand Prix DC, well, 3 months prior I'd planned to go, had plans to get there and a lodging setup and everything, but back then it was still going to be held in Baltimore. A couple of months later it was then pushed to the capital, but about a week ago I found out that the tournament was not actually going to be held in DC, but nearly 30 miles outside Washington D.C. in Chantilly, Virginia. Oh well, better luck next year, sometime. And now, a little note on the winnings for the Rise of the Eldrazi sealed contest from episode 117, and proof that the cards I'm sending are not jank rares, mostly. To be fair, the 8 that I'd consider are fun add-ins for, say, Type 4, where your intention is to play the most ridiculous spells and still have rogue potential other places. Let's take a look. So, as you can see, the pile of cards is pretty impressive. If I had to rank it in terms of a dollar value, it's probably somewhere between $500 and $1,000 retail value. I hope we can do a contest like this again. Hopefully we can do more cards from the current block, more cards that I'm interested in talking about, but a lot of these cards I was very interested in talking about either today, different episodes, or they have some sort of memorabilia to them, like Una, Queen of the Fae. So thanks again everybody that entered. There were 106 entries, and I hope Marvin is happy with his 117 Mythic Rares and Rares. Some of these cards were donated, and some of them were bought, because I wanted to have kind of a couple of things, a couple of combo pieces that you could put together. Thanks to the guys that hired me at blackborder.com. Thanks. So until next time, this is Anthony Palmerio. On behalf of the Professors, we're tapped out for now, but we'll untap soon.